Hey everyone, and welcome back to Nutty Chess Tips with me, Nutty T. Today I'm going to show you some tricky, trappy lines that you can use when your opponent plays the Englund Gambit, the Charlick variation. I'll put the main line in the cut above, so as usual, check it out. First moves on the table are d4, e5, d takes c, and as you can see from the highlighted arrows, either move will result in the same position, so d6, and then I like this move, which is knight f3. When they move knight c6, we just guard the pawn with our dark square bishop. When they move g4 with their bishop, we simply take the pawn. Taking this pawn is just bad for black. I'll just show you a scenario. If they take with the bishop, we take, and now as you can see, it's just a weak pawn. Now we can go knight b to a d2, and if they go queen b6, we have this move, which is e3. Now if they take the pawn on b2, we simply slide the rook over to b1. If they get greedy and take the pawn, we have this lovely little move, which is knight c4. Now we're eyeing up this weak pawn on d6, so if they do a random move such as castles to save the pawn, well, now rook a1 and their queen is gone. Let's go back. So if they take the pawn, it's a similar scenario. Go e3. When they move the queen, we now have bishop e2. When they take the pawn, we move the b knight to d2. When they retreat the queen, we have this move, which is castles, just getting our king to safety. If they do a developing move such as knight f6, we now slide the knight into c4, threatening the queen and threatening this pawn. If the queen moves to c5 to save the pawn, we now have bishop takes on d6, and we're eyeing up the queen, we're eyeing up the bishop, so bishop takes, and now we simply go in with knight d6. If the king slides over, we simply go skadoosh. Knight b7 with a king and queen fork. Let's go back. So as you can see, these moves are no good for black. The best move for black is this move, which is queen f6. Now I had this in a game online. I just go e3, securing this bishop, and then my opponent takes the pawn on b2. Here I just move the b knight to d2 as in previous situations. In one of my games, my opponent went knight b4. Now I just slide the rook over to c1 to help this pawn. My opponent then took the pawn on d6. I take back with the bishop, and he takes back with the pawn. I just go bishop check on b5. My opponent just moved the knight to cover the check, and now this bishop is weak, so I slide the rook over to b1. My opponent then got greedy and took the pawn on a2. which I was so glad about because I had this move, which is knight c4. He then proceeded to guard the pawn with the rook, but he missed this move, which was boom, bishop a1, and the queen is trapped. So let's go back. What if after this move your opponent just castles? Now if they do this, we simply move the rook to b1. If they take the pawn on a2, we now come in with the bishop to attack the queen. When black retreats the queen to a5, we now have this beautiful move, which is rook b5. Now if they go back to a3, we now take the pawn on c7. The rook usually moves to d7. We just go in for the kill with this move, which is queen b1. Your opponents will usually cover this line with the bishop on b4. We just go c3. And now there's a couple of moves your opponent can do. They can take this knight. If they ever take the pawn, they are simply losing. So if they take this knight, we now take with the g-pawn. And now if they take with the queen, we have this move, castles, just getting our king to safety. When they take the free knight, we have this lovely move, which is Kamakazi! Rook b7. And now if the king takes, we have this move, which is Kamakazi! Bishop a6. And now when they take, and can you see the move now? It's just promoting this pawn to a queen. And now we're just winning. So let's go back. What if they take the pawn with the queen? If they take the pawn with the queen, we have another Kamakazi with rook b7. Now they can never take this knight because this knight hasn't been taken yet. They have to take with the bishop. And now we go Kamakazi! Rook check on b8. The only thing they can do is take with the knight, and then now we go oosh, promote to a queen with checkmate. So let's go back. Obviously, if they take with the bishop, again, we come in with the rook to b7. This is such a killer move. Now, obviously, they can't do anything about it. Can only do a desperation move such as bishop d2. We simply take. If they take the pawn, take the rook with a check. King moves. We now take this knight. The bishop usually will move to d7. If this moves, we just come in with a check with the queen. When the king slides into e7, we now have this beautiful move, which is bishop d6. And as you can see, we're checking the king and we're eyeing up the queen. So the queen has to take. We come in with the queen with a check, and now when the king moves, we simply sacrifice again with a Kamakazi with the rook to c8. And when they take, check with the bishop. Bishop moves in front to guard. We just take off the bishop. when the king slides to f8, we come in with the skadoosh, queen e8 checkmate. So let's go back. Right, so this last line is a killer. What if instead of the queen going to a3, what if the queen goes to c3? If the queen goes to c3, d takes c, and when the rook moves to d7, we now have this move, Kamakazi! Bishop b7! And as you saw in the last one, it's just a killer move. And when they take, we have this move, which is bishop a6. Now they take the bishop and we promote the pawn to a queen. Now when they move to b6, we just castle here. And if they do a move such as bishop b4, we have this lovely move, which is queen e2. And now if they do a desperation move such as bishop takes on f3, we have this move, which is queen c to a6. There is only one move the opponent can make, which is c5, and now we just come in with queen b5 checkmate. So I hope you've enjoyed these lines. Don't forget to check out the other videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and it's nice.